What if the real reason your erection is failing has nothing to do with age and everything to do with muscles you've been ignoring your entire life? Let me ask you directly, when was the last time you actually trained the parts of your body responsible for making your penis hard? Most men spend years frustrated with impotence, weaker erections, or a penis that just won't stay firm, but they never realize that circulation and pelvic strength respond instantly when you activate the right areas. And that's exactly why today's 3 exercises can create a strong erection in minutes, not months. I'm Dr. Emily Collins, urologist, and before we go any further, I want you to forget the idea that impotence is some mysterious force stealing your masculinity. In the vast majority of men over 50, the real issue is predictable: weak pelvic muscles, trapped blood flow, tight connective tissue, and a vascular system that has been slowly shutting down from years of sitting, stress, and shallow breathing. The penis isn't failing you. It's simply not getting the pressure, oxygen, and muscular support required to become fully hard. Here's the part most men never hear. Erections depend on 3 things that you can influence today: the strength of the pelvic floor, the ability of your arteries to expand quickly, and your nervous system's response to arousal signals. When these 3 systems fire together, blood rushes into the penis with force. When even one of them is weak, you feel it instantly: softness, inconsistency, or total collapse at the worst possible moment. That's why these 3 exercises aren't random. They were chosen because they target exactly those systems with immediate biological impact. And I want you to understand something clearly. You don't need a pill to force a temporary result. You need activation. You need targeted movement that wakes up circulation and restores the natural ability of your penis to respond. In just a moment, I'm going to show you how to perform each exercise step by step so you can feel the shift in real time. Many men are shocked by how fast the body reacts when the correct areas are stimulated. Before we continue, tell me in the comments if you've ever felt your erection fade even when you were mentally ready. Your experience matters, and it helps other men realize they're not alone. And while you're here, make sure to hit like and check if you're already subscribed, because what you'll learn next could change your confidence forever. Let's keep going, because the first exercise has the power to instantly improve hardness and control when done correctly. The first exercise you need to master is the deep pelvic floor activation, a technique most men think they're doing right but almost always perform incorrectly. What makes this exercise so powerful is that it targets the exact muscle responsible for trapping blood inside the penis during an erection. When that muscle is weak, blood escapes too quickly. When it's strong, hardness becomes easier, faster, and far more reliable. This is why some men feel their penis shrink or soften the moment they change positions, because the pelvic floor can't maintain the internal pressure required for rigidity. To understand how to activate it properly, place your attention on the sensation of stopping urine mid-flow. That contraction you feel is the pubococcygeus muscle, but for erection strength you need a deeper, slower, more controlled activation. Most men squeeze the abdomen or buttocks instead, which creates tension without improving actual erectile function. The correct movement should feel subtle, internal, and precise, as if you were gently lifting the base of the penis upward from the inside. If you feel your stomach tighten or your breath get shallow, you're forcing it, and forcing shuts down the exact blood flow you're trying to increase. Start by sitting upright with your feet grounded, spine long, and jaw relaxed. Take a slow breath in through your nose, then exhale while lifting the pelvic floor with a smooth, steady contraction. Hold for 3 seconds, keeping your abdomen completely soft, then release fully. The release matters just as much as the contraction. It allows fresh blood to surge back into the pelvic region. Repeat this cycle 10 times, always maintaining relaxed breathing. As you do this, you may feel warmth, tingling, or a subtle heaviness in the penis. That is circulation waking up. Once you can control the 3-second hold, increase the duration to 5 or 6 seconds, but never strain. Strain causes tension, and tension restricts blood flow. The goal is activation, not force. After a minute or two, you may notice that your penis begins to hang heavier, fuller, or slightly firmer even without stimulation. That is a direct sign that the exercise is working. You're training your body to send blood downward with more power and to keep it there with greater stability. Another key element is isolation. You want the pelvic floor doing the work, not the glutes, not the thighs, not the abdomen. Imagine the contraction happening behind the base of the penis, deep in the center of the pelvis. When done with precision, this exercise improves erection quality, increases control during intimacy, and helps you respond more easily when arousal starts. Practice this several times throughout the day, especially before sexual activity. You'll notice that the body becomes more responsive and the erection becomes easier to maintain as the neural pathways strengthen. This simple movement is one of the fastest ways to restore firmness, especially for men who struggle with incomplete or fading erections. The next exercise builds on this activation and pushes circulation even further, creating an immediate surge of blood flow that many men feel within minutes. Now that your pelvic floor is awake and responding, it's time to unlock the second pillar of strong, lasting erections: deep arterial circulation. Most men believe erections depend only on arousal or testosterone, but the truth is far more mechanical. If the arteries feeding the pelvis are compressed, sluggish, or partially restricted, the penis simply cannot fill with enough force to stay rigid. Years of sitting, stress, abdominal tension, and shallow breathing create a tight ring around the lower abdomen and groin, reducing blood flow long before it reaches the base of the penis. This second exercise is designed to reverse that restriction quickly. Begin by lying on your back with knees bent and feet flat. Place one hand on your lower abdomen and the other on your inner thigh. Take a deep breath through your nose, expanding your belly as much as possible. This type of breathing creates a pressure wave that pushes fresh blood downward, opening the arteries that supply the pelvic region. As you exhale, slide your hand down your thigh, applying gentle pressure toward the groin. You're guiding circulation, encouraging the vessels to relax and send blood into the area where erections begin. Next, lift your hips slightly off the floor in a small bridge position. This changes the angle of the pelvis and allows gravity to assist blood flow. Hold for 5 seconds while breathing slowly, then lower your hips back down. Repeat 10 times. As you perform this movement, focus on smoothness rather than height. The goal is to mobilize the pelvic vessels, not to strain your lower back. Men often report a warm, pulsing sensation during this exercise, a sign that circulation is increasing and the arterial walls are becoming more responsive. Once your body adjusts, add a gentle rocking motion. With your hips elevated slightly, rock them forward and back with slow, controlled movement. This mobilizes the connective tissue surrounding the arteries and stimulates the release of nitric oxide, the chemical that tells your blood vessels to expand. When nitric oxide levels rise, blood flows more easily into the penis, making erections firmer and faster to develop. Many men with mild impotence notice a dramatic difference after just a few minutes of this routine. To intensify the effect, combine breathwork with the rocking. Inhale as you tip your pelvis forward, creating space in the lower abdomen. Exhale as you rock back, allowing pressure to build in the pelvic floor. This synchronizes breathing, circulation, and muscular control, creating the ideal environment for a strong erection. You may feel the penis swell or lengthen slightly as the blood flow increases. That is exactly what should happen. Continue for 2 to 3 minutes, staying mindful of your breathing and avoiding any tension in the shoulders or neck. When the arteries are open and the pelvic region is warm, you've created the perfect setup for the next exercise, which focuses on mobility and nerve activation to elevate your erection strength even further. The third exercise focuses on something most men never consider, yet it has a massive impact on erection quality: pelvic mobility. Strong erections do not depend only on blood flow and muscle activation. They also rely on the freedom of the nerves and connective tissues that run through the pelvis. When those tissues become stiff, compressed, or locked from years of sitting, poor posture, or tension, the penis loses sensitivity, response time slows, and erections weaken even when circulation is good. Mobility restores the signal pathway that allows the brain, nerves, and pelvic floor to coordinate properly. Start by standing with your feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly relaxed. Place your hands on your hips and slowly tilt your pelvis forward, as if you were gently bringing your belt buckle upward. Hold for 1 second, then tilt your pelvis backward, lightly tucking your tailbone under. Move slowly and deliberately, allowing your lower back and hips to glide without force. This motion creates space in the sacrum and pubic region, releasing tension. Around the pudendal nerve, the nerve that carries sensation to the penis and helps trigger erections. After warming up, transition into circular pelvic rotations. Imagine your hips drawing a slow, controlled circle. Move clockwise for 10 rotations, then counterclockwise for 10 more. As you rotate, keep your abdomen soft and your breathing steady. This movement lubricates the joints of the pelvis, reduces tightness in the groin, and frees the deep connective tissues that support erectile function. Many men notice increased warmth or tingling in the penis during this exercise because the nerves begin firing more efficiently. Now shift into lateral mobility. Slide your hips gently to the left, then to the right, keeping your shoulders still. This side-to-side motion stretches the inner thighs and the muscles that surround the pelvic floor. When these areas relax, the body can direct blood into the penis with far less resistance. This is especially important for men who feel their erections weaken during certain positions or movements. Often, the problem is not the penis, it's restricted pelvic mechanics. Finish the routine with a slow, rhythmic figure-8 motion. This integrates forward, backward, and lateral mobility into one continuous flow, teaching the pelvis to move freely as a unit. The smoother your hips become, the better your nerves communicate, and the easier it is for your body to sustain firmness without effort. Your penis responds to signals, and those signals travel through the pelvis. When the pathway is unrestricted, erections feel stronger, more natural, and more responsive. Mobility work may seem simple, but for many men over 50, it is the missing link, the step that allows the first 2 exercises to fully express their power. Before we move on, leave a comment below telling me whether mobility is something you've ever incorporated into your routine or if this is completely new to you. Now that you understand each exercise individually, the real power comes from combining them into a single routine that activates muscles, circulation, and nerve pathways all at once. Most men try one technique here and there, but the body responds best when these systems are trained in sequence. When you stack the exercises correctly, you create a surge of pressure, oxygen, and neural activation that supports a firm erection even if you've been struggling with impotence for years. This is where men often feel their first real breakthrough. Start with 60 seconds of slow pelvic floor activation to wake up the deep muscles responsible for trapping blood inside the penis. Remember, the goal is not to squeeze hard but to contract with precision. As you breathe in, relax. As you exhale, lift the pelvic floor gently and hold for a few seconds. This primes the entire base of the erection system, preparing it to support blood flow once circulation increases. Next, move straight into the circulation sequence. Lie on your back, lift your hips slightly, and allow your breathing to create rhythmic pressure inside the pelvis. The moment your arteries begin opening, you'll feel a noticeable shift, warmth spreading through the groin, heaviness returning to the penis, or a sense of pulsing that wasn't there before. This step is essential because it pushes blood toward the pelvic floor you just activated, creating the internal environment necessary for strength. After 2 minutes of circulation work, transition into mobility. Stand up slowly, allowing the blood to settle downward. Begin tilting your pelvis forward and backward, then rotate your hips in controlled circles. These movements release the tension that often blocks nerve conduction and restricts the lower abdominal fascia. When this tissue softens, Erections feel easier to initiate and maintain because the body is no longer fighting against internal compression. Even subtle mobility changes can create a dramatic difference in responsiveness. Once your pelvis is fully mobile, return to pelvic floor engagement for a final round. This time, each contraction will feel stronger because the nerves are awake and blood flow is active. You're no longer working against stiffness or restricted arteries. You're training in the ideal state for erection development. This combination, activation, circulation, mobility, activation again, creates a loop that reinforces itself with every repetition. For men who want faster results, repeat the entire sequence twice. It takes about 7 to 10 minutes but can trigger visible changes the same day. Many men notice that their penis hangs fuller after the routine or that spontaneous firmness returns more easily. These are early signs that the erectile system is reawakening. With consistent practice, this becomes not just a temporary boost but a long-term improvement in how your body responds to arousal. This routine also helps identify where your personal weakness lies. If you feel strong activation but poor swelling, circulation is the issue. If blood arrives but the erection fades quickly, the pelvic floor needs more training. If arousal feels delayed or inconsistent, nerve mobility is the missing link. Understanding your own pattern gives you control, letting you target the exact area holding you back as we move into the next stage of the process. Even when men follow the routine correctly, some still feel their erections aren't as strong as they expected at first. That doesn't mean the exercises failed. It means your body is revealing deeper patterns that have been building for years, patterns you can correct once you understand what they're telling you. Impotence rarely comes from a single cause. It's usually a combination of circulation issues, chronic tension, poor recovery, nutrient deficiencies, and inconsistent nerve activation. When you know how to read these signals, you regain control instead of feeling discouraged. If you don't feel much change after the first session, the most common reason is restricted blood flow. Many men carry decades of tightness in the lower abdomen, hips, or groin that reduces the amount of blood that can reach the penis, no matter how strong the pelvic floor becomes. In this case, extending the mobility section or repeating the circulation exercise twice creates a noticeable improvement. The goal is to soften the tissues surrounding the arteries so blood can actually reach the erectile chambers with force. Another reason is nervous system fatigue. Stress, poor sleep, anxiety, and high inflammation all weaken erection signals before they even reach your pelvis. If your mind is constantly in alert mode, your body redirects blood away from the genitals and into survival systems. That's why shallow breathing or tension in the jaw, shoulders, or stomach can instantly weaken erection response. Focusing on slow nasal breathing throughout the routine helps reset the parasympathetic system, allowing arousal pathways to activate again. Hormonal imbalance is another hidden factor. Low magnesium, low zinc, poor vitamin D levels, or chronically elevated cortisol can make your erection feel inconsistent even when circulation improves. These aren't problems the exercises can fix alone, but they amplify the results once corrected. Men who address their sleep, hydration, and stress typically notice that the exercises suddenly click, producing stronger reactions than before because their body is no longer fighting against itself. Some men also perform the exercises with too much force. Overcontracting the pelvic floor creates the opposite effect by tightening the surrounding region and compressing nerves. Erections require expansion, not tension. If the exercises leave your pelvis feeling tight or fatigued, lighten the intensity and slow your breathing. Gentle, precise activation produces far better results than aggressive squeezing. It's also important to recognize that years of erectile dysfunction can condition the brain to expect failure. When the body has learned that arousal leads to frustration, the nervous system becomes hesitant. This doesn't mean you're broken, it means you need repetition. Consistency retrains the pathways that connect stimulation to erection. Over days and weeks, these signals strengthen until the body responds naturally again. Finally, understand that every man has a different weak link. Some need more circulation work, some need deeper mobility, and some need more controlled activation. The routine you've learned is designed to reveal which component needs extra attention. Once you identify your personal pattern, you can adjust the sequence and multiply your results as we move to the final step of this process. By the time you reach this point, your body has already begun to relearn the fundamentals of creating a strong, reliable erection. The 3 exercises you've practiced are not quick tricks or temporary boosts, they are mechanical resets that restore the natural pathways your body depends on for sexual performance. When activation, circulation, and mobility begin working together again, the penis responds with far less effort. You may notice that arousal feels smoother, firmness arrives with less hesitation, and your body feels more connected to the signals it once ignored. This is the foundation men over 50 often think they've lost forever, yet it can return faster than expected when the system is trained correctly. What surprises most men is how quickly their confidence shifts once they regain even a small amount of control. The frustration that used to define intimacy begins to dissolve. Instead of worrying whether the erection will last, you start paying attention to how your body reacts, what improves each day, and which exercises create the strongest response. This awareness alone changes the way you experience your sexuality. Erection strength is not an accident, it is a product of pressure, blood flow, nerve communication, and muscular coordination. When you train these elements intentionally, the results compound. Daily repetition reinforces the pathways you've awakened. The pelvic floor becomes quicker to activate. The arteries open faster. The nerves fire more consistently. Even men who felt totally unresponsive often realize that their body was never unwilling, it was simply untrained. And as these patterns strengthen, you begin to carry that confidence outside the exercises, into your posture, your breathing, your interactions, and eventually into the bedroom. This is the moment when men understand that impotence was not the end of masculinity, but a signal that their body needed attention. The routine you've learned is not the finish line, it's the entry point. With consistency, your erections continue to improve week after week. Some men enhance the routine with better sleep, better hydration, or micronutrients that support vascular function. Others focus on stress reduction or mobility. Work. Whatever direction you choose, you now have the tools to rebuild performance instead of relying on chance or temporary fixes. Your body still responds. It always has, you're just giving it the structure it needed. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear from you directly. If you made it all the way to this point, comment the phrase "I'm taking control" so I know you're committed to your progress. Your voice helps other men realize they're not alone in this journey. And if this guidance brought you value, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next set of techniques that build on everything you've learned here. Go ahead and drop a like as well. It shows me that this conversation matters to you and helps this content reach the men who need it most. And when you're ready, there's another video right here that expands on these methods and takes your results even further. Click it and continue with me there, you're already on the right path.